Good afternoon, everyone. This is Corey Hinkle here with your Ankerstar Wealth Daily Update. We've got a few really important topics and developments going on. We're getting into earnings season more and more as the days go by. I've got an interesting topic to look at: the worst decade for bonds, and it's this decade. And I also want to look at a couple earnings that are moving the market today. So let me first mention that this is a financial education presentation. You must do your own due diligence before acting on anything you hear in this presentation. More disclaimer information can be found on ankerstarwealth.com, and the opinions expressed are mine and mine alone. Okay, a little market update. The S&P 500, as you can see, we're sitting on all-time highs at this point. Last I looked, we were about 20 cents away on SPY from hitting an all-time high, but I mean, for all intents and purposes, we are sitting at all-time highs, and wanted to dig just a little deeper to show you kind of what's moving the market in that index. So we're still seeing, kind of start over here on the left, big tech. We're still seeing some really strong momentum from the semiconductor space. You've got NVIDIA, Broadcom, AMD's been really strong. Really, that entire complex has been strong, particularly off of the April lows. Software technology has been very strong as well. Microsoft, I think, at an all-time high today. Palantir doing the exact same thing. So, elsewhere, you do have some other strong momentum names in there, like a Coinbase still moving higher, Netflix still moving higher with earnings after the bell. So a lot to watch for there. And then, from there, you do see kind of that broad theme of healthcare really struggling. We are going to talk about that in just a minute. And then from there, you've got some earnings being released today, a few dividend raises in this industrial space. So a little bit of activity going on there. And then we are going to talk about this Pepsi move in just a minute. They had earnings today as well. I do want to mention, in that sin stock space, the tobacco stocks looks like moving down today on some news that Juul is going to have a easier regulatory process to get product out. So that's those, I've never used one. What are they called? Vapes or something? So vapes are going to be a little easier to get things approved, which I don't really know that that's been very regulated. At one point, Altria spent $8 billion on Juul and ended up giving it away as the regulatory environment was bad at that time. So, that's kind of what's affecting that. We're not really going to get into that. Okay, do want to hit on Pepsi though. And just in case you aren't familiar with the Pepsi portfolio products, I did include an image down there. And yeah, I'm sure you're familiar with some of those. Pepsi is up 7% today. And the quarterly earnings beat Wall Street's expectations. Interesting here, revenue came in about $500 million higher than expected. And, earnings was a little bit better than expected as well. Important to note, they are still having some volume shrinkage in the United States. That's their primary market of business. It's a global company, though. I think volume shrank 1% in the quarter year over year. So volumes, it's like, how can revenue go up if volume isn't going up? It's because there's some inflation, price inflation there that makes up for the 1% decline in volumes. And volumes weren't down across their entire portfolio of products, but across, the portfolio as a whole down 1%. So they're not out of the woods yet. They're at some point going to have to get back to organic revenue growth. There's a few theories about what could have been causing this. Inflation is something that really did cut deep in the United States economy. And it did create a trend where consumers were trading down, getting more of those off-brand items. Some of those off-brands at Costco too have been increasing in popularity so much. And, here locally in Texas and HEB, some of those off brands are really popular and high quality. So that's another headwind for a Pepsi. I do feel they'll probably get back to some form of revenue growth, volume growth at some point. They've added a few brands as well. So they're trying to kind of, well, here, and we'll talk about that in just a second. Now, looking at the chart, you can see Pepsi's still firmly in a multi-year downtrend as far as stock price. So, hey, maybe up 7% today. Maybe that's just a Band-Aid on top of the deep wound that's still there for investors, right? But, a lot of work to do in terms of a technical look at fixing the price activity of the stock. One of the things they are doing, they've purchased 2 companies, I think Siete Foods and one other I'm having trouble remembering, that are going healthier, more health focused. Oh, and bring it back to this. That's health focused is something consumers have been pushing for, and it's something that Pepsi is leaning into. So they're actually relaunching a couple of these brands down here with a simplified ingredient list and with, obviously a health focus. So it'll be interesting to see how consumers view those items when they come back. It is generally accepted or assumed that these brands can pivot. They can pivot. They've got the manufacturing capacity to cut out some ingredients and pivot if the consumer calls for that. And I would imagine that Pepsi will be able to successfully do that. Not that it would create some parabolic move in the stock. It's a mature old company, but hey, for at least today, I think investors recognize that the pivot can and will work, and they're rewarding the stock at least for today. So that's helping the index. What's not helping the index? We saw that weak healthcare section down here. Elevance Health leading the sector lower. That's not what you want, but that's what they're doing. So what's going on with Elevance Health? They revised their earnings outlook for the 2025 calendar year. And they're now expecting earnings per share about $30 per share in earnings, and the stock is right at $300 right now. So it is trading pretty cheap. When you go through here, and I'll show you a chart of Elevance Health, you can kind of get a feel for the pain those investors have been feeling. You are back at 2019 prices here, and you're down about 50% in the past year. So quite a bit of pain. And, is it fully justified? I do want to mention, and it's something that Mike talks about frequently on the show, that these healthcare companies, these service providers, health insurance providers, they don't have complete control on what they will be reimbursed for. So it's not a fully like a free market like Pepsi's in. Pepsi can charge whatever they want. They can pivot. They can kind of do whatever they want, and they just have to appeal to the consumer. But Elevance Health is sort of in the middle of consumers and government forces. So you can see that what investors really didn't like is kind of right over here. They've been having higher expenses for their, let me see what the phrase is, but I'll see if it comes to me in just a second. But they've been having higher costs essentially to service their customers, and these higher costs have squished their margins down. Margins fell 1.5% from a year ago, and investors are never going to like that. And that's probably why you're seeing the stock be really, really punished in these past 6 months. I will note, it's interesting. Obviously, you on a valuation basis, the company is very cheap. Fundamentally, the company is very strong, and even somewhat defensive. And then you do see those revenues, $49 billion in the quarter, $43 billion last year. As a consumer, I don't like that. It seems like sometimes my wife and I have talked like, is the healthcare system broken? It might be, but their revenues are sure going up. However, they do mention that they expect 12% annual growth in adjusted diluted earnings per share over time. So the company is projecting quite a bit of earnings growth, even though the stock, it's almost like investors don't believe them. So there might be something to look at there, but I just wanted to mention for today, that's one of those things that's moving markets today. And, you know, that S&P is sitting right at all-time highs. Okay, I wanted to hit this last thing, the worst decade for bonds. Giving a shout out first, of course, to Ben Carlson. His blog, A Wealth of Common Sense, is a favorite of mine, and I really appreciate his work and research. He shows that bond market real returns by decade have never been worse than in the 2020s. And I wanted to just articulate or illustrate kind of why that might be. Now, I don't have a chart to show the 10-year yield over all the way back to the 30s, but I do have back to 1980. And as we've mentioned on the show before, we enjoyed a multi-decade downtrend in long-term rates that bottomed actually in 2020 when rates were essentially zero. I think technically it was like 60 basis points or something, atrociously low. And since that time, many believe that we are potentially in one of two scenarios now. One being we're in a moderated rate environment where rates are going to just simply hover around a 5% level, longer term rates, over the kind of long term from here, the foreseeable future. There is another pool of thought where assets trend, and we do know that assets trend, but this other pool of thought is we started a long-term uptrend in rates, and that uptrend in rates started in 2020, coinciding with the bottom in 2020. I'm not in either camp for sure. Obviously, I'm an observer and monitoring that. But bonds almost never appreciate in value when rates are going up. So if we are in a rising rate environment, this is not the time to be adding long dated bond exposure. It's still not. And, I'll kind of leave it at that for today. This is just a market update, but this is the reason why. If you want to get appreciation in addition to your interest income on bonds, you're going to need bond yields to be falling most of the time to do that. There are a few one-off scenarios like where supply and demand are just out of whack, or inflation expectations get really, become very abnormal. There's some one-off scenarios, but again, a majority of the time, if you want to get capital appreciation in addition to interest income on your bonds, you're going to need bond yields to be falling, and we're just not seeing that. And I can't say that we will be seeing that in the near future. So and I'll give you, if you've made it with me this far, I'll give you one more thing to think about. Pepsi. What does Pepsi have to do with bonds? Pepsi is a mature, slow growth company, and I think their dividend yield is in the mid fours right now. Maybe, I don't know, maybe after the move today, like 4.2%, something like that. You'll notice that's similar yield to what you'd get on a longer dated bond. And investors have to pick, where do they want to get their income? Do they want to get their income from a bond, which is probably low risk, or a single stock like Pepsi, which any single stock would be higher risk than a government-backed bond? There is an element there where, because investors have to pick, investors may favor the safety of bonds, which could continue to put downward pressure on Pepsi's stock price. And if bond rates keep going higher in that one scenario where we're in a long-term uptrend in rates, if that were to be the case, then you'd see a longer-term pressure on Pepsi and stocks that are like Pepsi. So those income-focused stocks out there. So anyway, just want to leave you with that. Thanks for hanging out with us today. We'll be back tomorrow. We've got Netflix earnings after the bell. Very interesting. And, I'm sure there will be more to talk about tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone.